All right, so as of right now, it is, I believe, Sunday the 28th. I've just gotten home from my first Genesis tournament where I played pure Vanquish Soul. Shocking nobody. If you saw my last list, you know I've been playing K9 Vanquish Soul, so just playing this standard is pretty much a pretty given. For here, I want to explain not only the deck list I put together and how I performed, but I also want to put together my entire thoughts on Genesis as a whole and how healthy it is as a format. But before we get to that, let's get to the actual like promo or the actual deck profile. Keep in mind, this is literally the day before they're going to announce the new changes for balancing. So I'd imagine this deck is going to see a lot of point increases, given that this is the deck that won Anaheim. So I'm just going to get the obvious out of the way. 3 Holly Sue, 3 Mad Love, 3 Raisin, 3 Borger, 3 Jiaolong, 3 Caesar. This is pretty standard. You just play all of them. You can't play rocks. You just play every single copy that you can play, and then you just don't open too many of them. And then spells, I played 2 starts, 1 Dust Devil, 1 Continue, and then 3 Stake. Not surprising anybody. This card's broken, and then 1 Snow Devil. Something I wanted to mention in this list is that without rock, the deck building doesn't change a lot. It just changes the technical play. So something I came up in testing a lot was noticing that the attributes did not matter as much because you have such an abundance of all of them due to Raisin being at 3 and you just manually running all of the good ones at 3. You just don't run Pluton or Pantera. So you have access to pretty much all of your attributes that you need in Engine, which is super nice. One pattern came up is that I wanted to see mostly fires all the time because with the Mad Love and the Raisin existing, Jiaolong gets a ton of value if you just open fires. And this was how I played through most hand traps today. For example, Droll was like a non-issue for me today because I would set up plays where I would go Jiaolong on the play and then I would go like Holly Sue, special out Jiaolong, and then normal Raisin or Mad Love, and then go Chainlink 1 search, and then Resolution, they try to droll me. You chain the Jiaolong to get whatever spell or trap you need or whatever monster you need. Usually you're getting either Continue or Snow Devil off of it because you want to have the follow-up and the board breaking. And if you're at the point where Holly Sue's already live, you can get to your Caesars on the next turn anyway. Which we'll go into the non-engine when we talk about that. 3 Extrav. The glare is making it hard to look at, but this is 3 copies of Extrav. This card's just broken. This is probably going to get points tomorrow. Not going to be surprised. I'll get to the more non-interesting hand traps. 3 Rescue Ace and 3 Ash, and the 1 Fire Attacker. These are pretty standard for this format. Again, I imagine tomorrow we're going to see a lot of the engine get points. Like I imagine there's no shot Raisin and Stake Your Soul don't get points. I'm imagining they're going to get like 10 each, like Holly Sue was. And then completely box out this ability to deck to play any non-engine like Ash Blossom, and I imagine this is also going to get points, and then Pot of Extravagance is also going to get points. So something I wanted to test today was potential replacements for them come tomorrow. My theory is that we should be playing Kaijus. This card overperformed today because of, I'll call it my local meta, because we had a lot of like build your board decks. People were trying different combos and different bunch of wacky things. I'll get more into the deck breakdown, but we saw out of the 11 players that showed up, we saw 10 different decks, and this hit all of them. In particular with this deck is that this is not only a fire, which like I mentioned earlier, I want to increase the fire cap so that way Jiaolong is always live, but it also combos extremely well with your other starters. So Mad Love, this is the Kaiju with the lowest defense in general. With it also being a fire, you get the value off that, but you can Kaiju your opponent, and then you can use Mad Love, bounce this back to your hand, and then Kaiju them again. And then with Raisin, if you put this in a column, you can nuke it instantly, and then you don't have to play it like into the mirror match. Something that came up a lot was your opponent would Holly Sue, make Raisin, and then you could just, with priority, plop this on the field before they have a chance to do anything. And then, yeah, this was really, really good. I would not cut Dogoran in a little bit. I might play Radiant going into the future format, just depending on what the format ends up looking like after the balance changes. Extra deck, this is the most uninteresting part of the deck because it's just 3 of most everything that matters. 1 Typhon, just because this was generic, it was 10 points, I just threw it in because it was the only thing I could think of to play. I don't own C104 still, so I just played whatever ones I just had lying around. Masquerade. This was in case my buddy actually managed to sell me one before the event started, but we just ended up not getting it. C101, 107, these are just whatever targets, and then everything else is just play extrav. 2 rocks, never made it. I played 3 Valon, never made it. I made Nash Knight exactly once. It did not matter because I got Kaiju and lost that game. And then C Nash Knight, again, didn't come up. Extra deck in this deck doesn't matter much because of the extravagance and the fact that most of your engine is also non-engine and also a removal spell. Side deck, this was the part of the deck that was the hardest to figure out. I played 3 Droll. This was pretty good. This was pretty much the only card that mattered in my side deck other than this guy. 3D Crow. This was a meta call. I was expecting a lot of Machina, because I know the people that were going to play it were going to play it. And this is the best dark hand trap for this deck in my opinion. I don't think Skullmeister is good enough to play, but this does have a little bit more value into the matchup. 3 Lancia, I wanted this for Dragon Rulers. I didn't see a single one though, so it didn't come in. And then the Kaijus, 3 more Kumungus. This is probably going to be Radiant going forward. Earth is the by far least necessary attribute, and you can get to it very easily by via Holisu, because if you resolve the Holisu, you're going to guarantee bounce back to your hand with like a Caesar or something, in which case you're going to maintain the Earth in your hand for the rest of the game. And then shout out to Abdul, he let me borrow his Dark Rulers, but these are Dark Rulers. Dis did not come in at all, but it was sick to have in theory. We played 3 different rounds. We only had, like I said, we only had 11 people, and I was the only undefeated after round 3, so we just cut it off there. Round 1 was against Branded, which is the deck I'm actually going to probably play depending on the points list tomorrow. That matchup was pretty good. Sanctifier not existing basically made that matchup actually interesting. Game 1, I opened Ash, which didn't matter much because he didn't actually go Branded Fusion into his plays. He went High Spirits into Cartesia Quem and then played through that way, and he made a board of Albion plus Draco Stapelia with like double follow-up engrave with a Mercurier in hand, so that was pretty sick. But I did win that game by the nature of just opening Raisin plus Fire Dark and a Holisu, so it was just a good enough hand to play through it. Game 2 was a little bit more of a blowout. He went first. He opened extremely well. He eradicated me, which didn't matter a lot, but he ripped out my 2 starts that I had in my opener, so I lost that game because I couldn't follow up properly. And then game 3, I believe, was a one-sided Brickfest. He opened 1 starter, which was Branded Fusion, and I opened 2 Ashes, so he was not being able to play that game. Round 2 was against the aforementioned Machina player. We had a few interesting rulings in terms about Theory and Regulus. I did not know this, but apparently Regulus does not need a special from Grave to get him onto the board, so I got to learn that the hard way. And then, what else? That game was a 2-0. I opened game 1, I went first, and I opened enough, and then game 2, I opened Ryzen, Start, Borger, 2 DD Crow, and then I drew into the 3rd DD Crow, and it was a blowout. And then round 3 was the mirror match against the Abdul. This was, like I said, this is my aforementioned testing partner for the mirror match. We tested that for a good 2 or 3 hours, so we both knew each other's lists very well. We both agreed on the 2 start, and he cut continue. I didn't. It didn't really matter that much in that matchup, but it was something that we didn't know about each other's deck lists. Game 1 was extremely grindy, as to be expected with a Vanquish Soul mirror match. We both played on each other's turns. We both opened Holisu plus a way to get 2 starters, so that was solid. And then it came down to me out-resourcing him with Borger. I drew like 6 cards off Borger, and that's what got me into the game. I got to resolve start. I got to go second, and then he did not open start, but he did get to it on my turn. And then by that point, I was already established a Caesar, which means that the start was not going to resolve. Game 3, he went first, but we both, again, opened Holisu plus Fire Dark, so we both got to play equally on the opponent's turns. That one was extremely grindy. It was like a 30-minute game. Again, it came down to just who was properly managing their attributes. I managed to get to a point where I had 4 cards in hand, and all of them were different attributes, and then that last card in my hand was a Droll, so I was able to resolve Holisu on his turn, and then go to, when he starts to go play with Madlove, he normals the Madlove, gets a field spell, I Droll him, and then he just cannot play. Overall, this event was extremely fun. I got to see a bunch of different decks. Like, we saw Raid Raptors, Volcanics, my buddy Gibby, who you've probably seen on the channel before, he borrowed my Tellarknight core, and he's been playing Tellarknight Mitsu, just basically just Mitsu Raizul, but without the good cards. He got, I believe he bubbled out of top 4. He got like 5th place. And then what else? We saw Heroes was playable. We saw Madolche. We saw, I believe 4th place was, what's that deck called? Pearly. He got 4th place, and then and he was the guy that we played Cube with him afterwards. What else did we see? We saw Branded. I said the only duplicate of decks that we saw was me and Abdul, who were both playing Vanquish. Otherwise, we saw 10 different decks out of 11 different players, which that is some of the best I've seen, given this is my only experience with Genesis thus far. I can't explain more tournaments at a wider range because the format is so open right now that the meta is completely up in the air, other than exactly Vanquish Soul and Dragon Ruler, which we don't even know if that's going to be the case after tomorrow. So overall, I really like Genesis. My favorite part of Yu-Gi-Oh! Is deck building, and having strange deck building quirks like the point system really makes this very skill testing in that front. Now, to be fair, I did play the best deck in the room, and it did well. I didn't expect it to do poorly at all. Every time I played it into a proper like Genesis deck, it was by far the best thing I could have been playing. Like every other deck list I've been seeing has mostly just been extremely experimental, but Vanquish Soul is extremely solved, so we don't have to worry about like finding weird lines in the middle of a tournament. And the testing for this deck was extremely simple because I've been playing Vanquish Soul K9 for about 2.5 months. So I'm extremely optimistic. I'm cautiously optimistic about Genesis. I really want this to be successful because this is a format that's extremely wide open, and as a player that is entirely open to playing a game that is mostly about deck building, my skill is entirely based in my deck building. I have a ton of time just to sit and test decks, and that's how I express my skill, and I think this is the format where I can actually do that properly. Other than that, I thought it was great. I hope to do more of it. I will probably do more Genesis deck profiles in the future. It entirely depends on whether or not Genesis goes crazy in my area. I'm hoping it will. Next weekend, there is a large Genesis tournament that has like multiple boxes of prize support going out. Unfortunately, I won't be able to play for that, but yeah, that's the plan. I hope you guys enjoyed. Like, comment, whatever. I check comments from videos like 4 years old at this point. So the best way to talk with me is to just make a comment. If you have a question, comment, concern, if you want me to answer questions about the deck or any sort of thoughts in general about Yu-Gi-Oh!, I'm always down there. So please don't forget to say hi. Have a good one. Peace.